The gathering on Uthran Prime was supposed to be peaceful, a cross-species diplomatic summit, a symbolic gesture after a decade of tense but quiet standoff between Earth and the Xeran Dominion. Dignitaries stood in concentric circles on the obsidian platform, surrounded by banners, armed guards, and recording drones. No weapons were drawn, yet the most violent act of the day took exactly 2 seconds. And it didn't come from a gun. It came from a backhand. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a diplomat. She was an assistant. Elora Mace, 22, in turn to the Terran ambassador. Unarmed, unarmored, quiet, polite, always in the background, until she stepped forward to hand a datapad to her superior. The gesture was harmless, but to the Xeran High warrior posted near the ambassador, a brute named Sarluin, it was interpreted as a breach of ceremonial form. Without warning, he struck her. His clawed hand moved with the speed of trained violence. The impact echoed across the courtyard, a sharp, sickening crack of bone against flesh. Elora crumpled to the floor. Blood pooled beneath her cheek. She didn't move. No one spoke. Not the Xeran delegates. Not the Terran ambassador. Not the guards. Not the press drones. For 2 seconds, the galaxy held its breath. Then he moved. He wasn't wearing a uniform. He stood behind the Earth delegation, no rank or title shown. A man in a simple dark shirt and gloves. No name, no insignia. He was human, and when he stepped forward, the other humans stepped back. Not out of fear, out of recognition. He didn't ask for permission. He didn't speak. He walked directly up to Sarluin, the Xeran warrior who stood nearly 3 feet taller, and without raising his voice, without shifting stance, he struck him once. An open-handed blow to the side of the head. But it wasn't a slap. It was a collapse of structure. Sarluin's skull didn't shatter. It imploded. The side of his head caved in like wet paper under a hammer. He was dead before he hit the ground. Time resumed. Screams erupted. The Xeran guard surged forward, but froze in place as Terran gunships shimmered into visibility overhead, their stealth fields dropping with a hum like thunder held in the throat. The human who struck the blow didn't flinch, didn't turn. He just stared at the corpse on the floor, then at the rest of the Xeran delegation, and then quietly at the press drones. That was not a declaration of war, he said calmly. That was enforcement of boundary. The Xeran envoy choked on his own breath. You killed a decorated warrior in front of... He hit a human girl, the man replied flatly. She bleeds, he dies. That's the law. Nobody remembered Earth passing such a law. Not officially. But everyone suddenly believed it had always existed. Because when Earth made rules, they didn't negotiate them. They demonstrated them. Elora survived. Her injuries were extensive, but she was stable. The slap fractured her cheekbone, damaged her eye, and caused cerebral bruising. The report reached Terran intelligence within 4 minutes. Earth's diplomatic channels went silent at 5. At minute 6, the Xeran homeworld reported collapse of 2 outpost relays via an unknown software cascade. The humans said nothing. They didn't have to. The footage went viral across 16 systems in under an hour. No censorship could stop it. The moment, a Xeran soldier slapping a human girl, then dying seconds later by a single human strike, replayed on loops across holoscreens, net feeds, and closed diplomatic forums. But the galaxy wasn't focused on the slap. It was focused on the man who delivered judgment. No name, no record. Even Xeran intelligence came up empty. No birth certificates, no station logs, no diplomatic file. He had walked into a Tier 1 diplomatic summit, unarmed, unlisted, and left behind the shattered body of a decorated galactic warrior. The message was clear. Earth hadn't brought representatives to the summit. They had brought warnings. Elora Mace, stabilized aboard a med cruiser in orbit, regained consciousness 12 hours later. Her first question wasn't what happened. It was, did my attacker survive? When told he hadn't, she nodded once and said nothing more. The nurse later reported her eyes were calm. Not vengeful, not afraid, just certain. The Xeran Dominion issued a formal protest. They demanded compensation. They threatened sanctions. They blustered as dying empires often do. Earth didn't respond with statements. They responded with timers. At exactly 72 hours post-incident, Earth sent a single encrypted signal to a dormant relay on the edge of neutral territory. That signal triggered a cascade. Across 37 Xeran border systems, Terran AI logistics pulled back. Every wormhole stabilization beacon Earth had helped install deactivated. Every supple. They called it the Gray Law. Not because it was written, because it wasn't. There were no treaties, no clauses, no fine print. Only a whispered understanding passed from empire to empire. If you touch their own, the gray hand moves. It didn't matter that Earth never officially claimed responsibility. Didn't matter that no council ratified the strike. Didn't matter that Elora may survived. What mattered was that Earth's silence felt heavier than war. The gray hand never resurfaced, at least not visibly, but stories started surfacing. A smuggler in the Ryland Expanse bragged about robbing a Terran refugee ship. He disappeared the next day. Not killed, erased. No ship, no crew, no trace. A corrupt official in the Evok Confederacy approved an execution order for a detained human child. Before the order could be fulfilled, the prison station's power core initiated a full failure. No survivors. No Terran fleet nearby. Just silence. Elora Mace returned to duty within 3 weeks. She declined promotion, returned to her role as assistant. When asked why, she simply said, "My job is to pass information, not power." Her presence in diplomatic zones caused visible discomfort now, not from the humans, from everyone else. No one dared walk too close. No one raised their voice in her direction. They didn't see her as dangerous. They feared what watched over her. The Terran ambassador was asked once, by a very brave journalist, if the Gray Hand had rules of engagement. He replied, "Yes, one rule, protect the fragile, deliver absolute response." The Xeran Dominion collapsed not in war, but in shame. They could not recover from the loss of trust, the fear they had ignited. Trade dissolved. Their allies distanced themselves. Within a year, the once proud war fleet of Sarluin's people was scrapped for parts and sold for food. They had gained nothing and lost everything because of a slap. What shook the galaxy most wasn't the Gray Hand's speed. It was Earth's restraint. They didn't burn cities. They didn't broadcast threats. They let the body hit the floor, then simply watched, and in that silence, entire governments rewrote policy. A new mark began appearing on ships. Small, subtle, a gray fingerprint. Not official, not standard, but captains paid smugglers in gold to replicate it, because it meant a human has been here, possibly protected. Pirates wouldn't dare touch those vessels, not for fear of retaliation, but because the retaliation might come from a shadow, not a fleet. The final recorded sighting of the man, the Gray Hand, was years later. A surveillance feed, low-res, captured on a border world. A tall figure in a hood stood near a humanitarian station, helping unload supplies. Quiet, unassuming. A guard made a casual joke about the girl who got slapped. The figure paused, turned. The feed cut out. It never resumed. The station was later found abandoned, still running. No sign of distress. But everyone was gone. No signs of violence. Just one sentence, carved into the console in Terran glyphs. Speak her name with respect, or speak no more. And no one knew when or where.